Yesterday, at the end, I was speaking of PNV2, and now for PNV2, and in fact for all other PNV equation, I have to define this Weyl dynamic, called rigorously this Weyl dynamics. And in order to do that, I need a little bit sophisticated method of holomorphic dynamical systems. So perhaps I will take some minutes to explain you in fact, the simplest case. So this is the case I studied with Jean Martinet. I don't know, it's 1982. Okay, so the problem is foliation. So you look, it's a local problem. A and B are analytic function of two variables in the complex domain in C2. And I am looking to this foliation, or you can write as a differential equation, a nonlinear differential equation at the origin of C2. The problem, the old problem was studied by Poincaré, is a classification of such equations. Classification using analytic chain of variables, analytic diffeomorphism, germ of diffeomorphism at the origin. So you change by analytic diffeomorphism, you get another one, and so on. So you have an orbit on there. You look at the orbit, and there's this group. And you try to describe, you want to describe these orbits. And the classical method is to try to get normal forms. That is nice forms transversal to the orbit. It's not, nobody know what is normal form, but there's practically you search forms that you can integrate by elementary integration. Okay, so in fact, with Martinet, we look at the case when the one jet of the equation is not zero, identically zero. If the one jet is identically zero, then you have to perform blow up, and blow up, blow up, blow up. Okay. And so the idea is that there are a lot of theorems in this direction. By blow up, blow up, blow up, we arrive at the end at a case where the one jet is zero, and then we apply what I am explaining now. Okay, so in that case, you have this situation. And the lambda 1 and lambda 2 are complex numbers, and this one. Then you look the ratio. If 1 is 0, you change the notation. And the good case is this is Poincaré case. So then in that case, it is linearizable, so the normal form is a linear form. That is a normal form is this one. Okay, and if this lambda is a strictly positive, is a positive real number, it's okay. The normal form is a little bit more complicated, but it's more or less trivial. And the bad case is lambda in R minus. Okay, and this case is quite complicated. So in fact, you have two situations, lambda in R minus minus Q minus And in that case, it's a problem of Diophantine approximation and so on. I will not speak of that. It's not my subject. So it's Bruno, Yokos, and so on, Yashenko. I skip this case. So what remains is this one. And this one is the resonant case. And so the resonant case, we have two cases. You have the case where P, lambda 1 and lambda 2 are integer, positive integer, non-zero positive integer. And the remaining case is the case of, I am interested today, is the case of one of the lambda is 0. So typically you have this case, x sub p minus 1 dy y. Okay, so it is one of the resonant cases, and it is named sudden load. So today I am interested in sudden load. Okay, so with Jean Martinet, we classified analytically the sudden load. The situation is like that. I will simplify. I will only give a typical example. That is, it's not P, it's K. The case x2 di. And according to result of Dulac, you can look at this case. Okay, in fact, so I am interested in analytic classification. So analytic classification is very difficult now. So the first step is to do formal classification. That is, you allow formal transformation.
Is this also dx as well?
Excuse me?
Dx.
Oh, yes. Okay. Upstairs, yes. Okay, so you can perform, you can first look at the formal classification. And this one is more or less trivial. The formal normal form is this one. And there is an old theorem of Dulac saying that if the formal normal form is like that, then you have an analytic, then the equation is analytic equivalent to this one, to such an equation. Okay. And now if we remember the Euler equation, you see that there is a difficulty because up to some small change of sign, I don't know. Yes, you have to change a little bit of sign, no matter. It's similar. So you have a variant of the Euler equation which is like that. And this one is conjugated to this one. This is a normal form because you can be integrated explicitly like that. Okay, so there is a normalization, but this normalization is divergent. Okay. And so this is the beginning of the story. And the answer that what we explained with Martinet is that if you fix the normal form, and then if you look at the moduli, at the analytic moduli, then it is awful. It is infinite dimensional. Well, no time to explain the classification, but this This is the idea, and the technique is to perform, to study such forms using fiber transformation. That is change of variables, of the two variables, like that, y x and x, y phi x y. Okay, so you use only transformation, fiber transformation. You fix the projection, and you change, you make only automorphism on in the fiber. Okay, and in fact, the way we study the problem is that starting from such an equation, you want to try to reduce it in some sense to its normal form, and you cannot do that, but you can do that in sectors. So you can do that in two sectors. So in each sector, you have analytic conjugation to the equation to its normal form. And then you can compare what is happening in the intersection of the sectors. And if you have the comparison, you can interpret it as an automorphism, a sectorial automorphism of the normal form. And now it's a computation. You can compute what is the family of automorphism, sectorial automorphism of the normal form. And these automorphisms, if you look at these automorphisms which are bounded, then automatically they have exponential decay in a sector, in an open sector of opening P. Oh, okay, and then by abstract cohomological arguments, then you can prove that the normalization is summable, is one summable. This is the idea. Okay, so the idea is to look at the automorphism of the normal form, explicit computation, and then you check, and from the information you get, you use abstract cohomological arguments, and you get the result. Okay, so this is the idea in the simple case. And now I will explain what is happening for plane wave equation, because the story is quite similar, but more complicated. So it's a key point. Okay, I recall yesterday I explained. So at the beginning, we have your plane wave, for example, plane wave 2 equation. It lies on C cross C2. And then you compactify C cross C2. And there are variant. You can use different compactification for the. I think the best one is the one of Shiba. But it is orbifold compactification, so it's a little more general than manifold. So you need a differential equation on orbifold. A complicated formula, but everything is explicit. You can compute. Okay, and you do that. And if for Shiba choice is for P2 is to use this weight projective space. Okay, and then he performs some weight blow-up. In fact, it's ramified. It's Briot and Bouquet blow-up. It's ramified blow-up. He performs some blow-up. And then he gets some singularity at infinity. And looking at each singularity, he can recover the Komoto picture. And he gets some essential singularities. And today I'm interested in the essential singularities. And the essential singularity, you get them as the stationary point of this Hamiltonian, H2. And there are three singular points. And in fact, for orbifold structural reason, you have an action of the 2 on the picture. So one of the points is fixed by this action, and these two are symmetric. So in fact, you have, practically, you have two singularities. You have to look at two singularities. Okay, and now at each singular point, you have a nonlinear Stokes phenomena. Okay, if you recall yesterday, I described 9 lines. So this one corresponds to 3 lines, and this corresponds to the 6 lines with the symmetry. Okay, and in order to study this singular point, I will use a technique of Amory-Bittman, which is a generalization of this picture with this work with Jean Martinet. Okay, so the variable is epsilon, the transversal variable is epsilon, and these are the Hamiltonian variables, the symplectic variables. And you start from such a family, so we are in dimension 3. So in that case, you are in dimension 2. The saddle node, you have the 0 eigenvalue, and you replace 1 dimension by 2 dimensions, but with symplectic structure. So you have this, for this problem, you have a saddle node with the classical 0 resonance of saddle node plus another resonance due to the symplectic structure. Each time you have a symplectic structure, you have a resonance. Okay, and the technique of Amory-Bittman is to use the same trick, that is to classify by fibered transformation, x fixed, and you have a diffeomorphism of I1, I2 parameterized by x, or formally parameterized by x. So the idea is the same, but technically it's really a lot more difficult. Okay, so here is the normal form of Amory-Bittman. Okay, so in the normal form, it appears complicated. It's more complicated than this case. Here it's very simple. Now you have a huge family of normal form, or formal normal form. In this formal normal form, as parameters, you have formal power series. And even if you start from a convergent equation, this normal form can be only formal. Fortunately, in the case of transversal Hamiltonian saddle node, that is the case of the Penvey equation, for the regular singularity at infinity, then you have some simplification. And the first essential point is that if the field, the vector field is convergent, is the case for Penvey equation, then these power series, now they are convergent. And in fact, there is also only one series. It's related to the classification of Hamiltonian in 1 degree of freedom. So in that case, you have convergence. Okay, so now you get normal form, you get convergent normal form. But it's a big family. In the family of the convergent normal form, you have arbitrary convergent power series. No matter, you can integrate by hand, and here you have the answer. This is the normal form, and this is the integration of the normal form. And you see that in the integration, of course, it appears some exponential, some ramification terms, and something quite strange because C1, C2 appears in also here. It's a new complication. It's for P2, for P1, yes. It's for all Penvey, except of course for P6, no singular essential singularity. And for P5 is simpler. For P5, we have not this term in C1, C2. So it's simpler. And of course, you have an action of exponential torus. If you rescale this exponential, you rescale by tau, you rescale this one by tau minus 1, and is equivalent to rescale the parameter C1, C2 with this action. Okay, and now Bittman proves that the normalizing transformation, you know the normalizing transformation, you have fiber transformation, and these normalizing transformations are in sectors, and they are made, the coefficients are formal power series. And what Bittman proves is that everything is uniformly one-summable. And the method of Bittman is the same idea. He look at the automorphism of the normal form, which is more complicated than this one, and then he proves the good property of exponential decay and so on. And then he deduces using a cohomological theorem, which is in the paper with Martinet, because it's very general. This point, he used that and he proves the summability. And of course, you have summability, but you know, if I go back, you look at this one, there is an exploding, in each sector there is a decreasing exponential and exploding exponential. So you have to put bound in order that the thing converges. So you will get some sum in a very affiliated domain. Remember, in a general case, you have a lot of poles accumulating at a singular point. So your domain, you must avoid the poles. But it works. It works, and now you have, of course, things are living in very affiliated domain, but you have locally on the character variety, or locally on Okamoto variety of initial condition, you have some transformation, and you have this Wilden dynamic. You have Stokes phenomena, local Stokes phenomena, and you have local action of the exponential torus. So we have a nice definition of the Wilde dynamics. Okay, so now if you remember my lecture of yesterday, you look on the character variety. On the character variety, you have 9 points, and in small neighborhoods of each point, you have this such Wilde dynamics. This is the situation. Okay, and of course, because you have this dynamic, for instance, you have the hexagon. Here, such point, you have a dynamic, and of course, you can extend it a little bit, like that, small neighborhood of the point. Okay, and now using the Russian results that you have explicit affine transformation that you can write, then you can extend this from this point. You can extend the dynamics along the lines, and of course that is on the neighborhood of the lines. And now you can extend the dynamics on the skeleton, and in fact on the neighborhood of the skeleton. Okay, now we will try to do better. And in fact, it's possible to prove, it's not finished, but it's a work in progress, that these dynamics are rational. So in fact, they extend everywhere, except for it's rational for, in each case, you have to remove some lines. For instance, we have the hexagonal Tori dynamics. That is, the Tori dynamics we come from these 6 points using Bittman results. And here are formula. Okay, so these formula are very simple. So it's a family we take a non-zero complex number tau, and for each complex tau, you have a transformation. It's not complicated. It's a rational transformation. It's very, very simple, but with Emmanuel Paul, we spent 2 years to guess. Okay. So we have a one-parameter subgroup of rational transformation. I suppose this alpha is not 1 over 2 modulo z. Okay, and this is the hexagonal dynamic. And you have similar results for the triangle. Oh, excuse me, here is not 0, it's xy equal 1. You have to correct here. The same business, a little formula, just a little bit more complicated. So we spent more time to guess this one. So we have also one parameter subgroup. And this is the situation. So this is the 9 Tori dynamics. Of course, using Riemann-Hilbert, you get exponentially Tori action on the Okamoto variety of initial condition. And you have to remove you have some poles, and the poles are onto some hypersurfaces corresponding to the lines. Okay, so for the moment it remains partly conjectural. If we admit the rationality conjecture, then you have it's easy to prove some unicity, so it's the only possibility. So what remains to prove is the rationality conjecture. If you know that it is rational, it is like that. It's the only possibility. And now, I think an important remark is that these parameter groups, in fact, are associated to Hamiltonian. And you have two Hamiltonians. So you have this is the hexagonal Hamiltonian. You have three Hamiltonians by circular permutations. And here you have the triangular Hamiltonian, also three Hamiltonians by circular permutation. It seems quite general. For P5, we have a similar formula. That is, exponential torus actions are coming from some Hamiltonian, and the definition of the Hamiltonian is very similar.
So, what is the symplectic form of alpha?
Oh, it's I don't know if easy, perhaps. I don't remember where it is. It's Poincaré residue. So it's I noticed it's Poincaré residues of you take the volume of C3. By Poincaré residue is induced, so you take the equation of the surface. By Poincaré residues is induce a symplectic form. Okay. And is equivalent to the form we
differentiate the cubic Poisson bracket of x and y is the derivative with respect to z of the cubic.
the Poisson bracket, you write the Poisson bracket using the gradient of that is gx, gy, gz. Okay, and for the Stokes map, we know it on the skeleton during to the result of the Russian school, and we conjecture that it belongs to the dynamic generated by the exponential theory. We have some conjecture about the formula, but it is not finished. Some words about the resurgence. You start from the Bittman normal form, and then you write this term like that, and then you have log. And then using Bittman results, you get formal power series solution in Y1, Y2 with summable power series coefficients to instantaneous solutions. So you get a transasymptotic series of some type. And now, so the apparition of the log in the transasymptotic series, which is not generic, is related to the symplectic resonance. So in the case alpha equals 0, it's a special case. In that case, we have rational solution. The triangle became free lines. Schiappa and Vaz obtain formal resurgence by brutal ansatz and recursion relations. So if you compare this formal expression and the results that you get from Bittman theory, you can prove that the power series in their formula, in the purely formal expression, in fact, these are summable. And they claim that there are resurgence, that is another story. I cannot prove that. Okay, so now you know these dynamics, the dynamics for P2. I can describe them. It's very simple, but it's not yet proved. And the idea to prove that, the only idea we have for the moment, is to use confluence. Okay, so the basic picture of confluence of Painlevé equation is in Painlevé. This one is the Painlevé-Okamoto confluence scheme. And in fact, there is a better confluence scheme if you detail, you separate the different cases of P2, P3, P4, and so on, P4. Okay, it's the confluence scheme of Oyama or Kumura. And now the idea of the proof for, I am describing this case, P2 Newell-Flaschka. So I want to prove that the dynamics, the Y dynamic, if P2 is what I just described. In order to do that, what we are trying to do is to follow this confluence, P6, P5, P5 degenerated to P2 Newell-Flaschka. And the state of the art is that Martin Klimes do this confluence. It's a published paper in Archive. Now with Martin, Emmanuel, you are writing this confluence. And now after that, we hope then we can do this confluence. Okay, perhaps next.
The Dynkin labels that you have, do they are related with the type of singularity?
Yes, Dynkin diagram.
For the classification of singularities?
Yes, no, it's a classification. You know, the Okamoto variety of it's a partial compactification, and then if you compactify, you have to add some line, and the picture of some line is Dynkin diagram. Yes.
Intersection
It's a Dynkin diagram.
Okay.
It corresponds to singularity of Kodera elliptic family, generalized elliptic curve of Kodera-Néron. That is the singularity that you get in an elliptic family. This is the label. Okay, now it's old algebraic geometry parenthesis. So I will speak a little bit of the cubic surface in P3. Okay, you know remaining time is small, so you can look at the detail in the notes, but today I will only explain the main points. Okay, so this is the fundamental picture is this one, and I will explain how this picture is strongly related to P6. Okay, so in the case of Penvey equation, you have a cubic surface, smooth or not, but it's a fine surface, that is, you remove 3 lines at infinity. And now the line on S, they correspond to some special representation, I will explain. And on the Penvey equation, in the generic case, this line corresponds to, in some case, to classical solution. And in other cases, like for P6, for instance, apparently it's not classical. So for P2 is truncated solution, B-truncate, retruncate. For P6, we give the same line. Of course, they are not truncated, but it's formally similar. So there are systematic relations between lines on cubic surface and local reducibility of representation, or wild representation. And also there are relations between lines on cubic surface and special solution of Penvey equation. Okay. In some cases, S has some singularities. The maximal number is 4, and they are isolated rational singularity. And generically, Riemann-Hilbert is analytic diffeomorphism, but if you have singularity, it's conjecture that it is partially proves it is a minimal desingularization. So, there are several ways of studying the smooth cubic surface. That is using elementary coordinate geometry, or another alternative is to use blow-up of P2 at 6 points. So we speak only on the first way. Just a parenthesis, if you do like that, you don't see the symmetries. But in fact, the 27 lines are completely symmetric. And also you can use Picard variety, and you can see also the symmetry. I will not detail that, you can look at the notes. Okay, and now there are some very simple remarks. A triangle is when you cut the surface by a plane, and then you get, in general, you get 3 lines. So a hyperplane section is 3 lines. Okay, so the first step is that you start with the cubic surface, smooth or not. So the first step is to prove that you have 1 line on the surface. Okay, so this one I skip. It is written in the notes. Okay, and then you do some remarks. An important point is this one. If you have a line, there are exactly 10 lines meeting it, and they fall into 5 coplanar pairs, and the pair are disjoint. I will explain. This is very important for Penvey. Oh, also, something which is not trivial. There is a pair of skew line or disjoint line. Using this pair, you can prove that your cubic surface is rational. In fact, it is equivalent to a blow-up of P2. So now I will explain why 25. Okay, so if I admit that I have a line, that what I can do is to look at the pencil of plane turning around this line. Here you have the pencil. And now if you look at the section by such a plane, then the section is a cubic curve, but it contains already a line, but it remains a conic curve. So, okay, you turn. An interesting situation is when this conic curve degenerates in two lines. It is this triangle. Okay, so this picture is for many reasons. It's very important for Pinlevé. Okay, so a fundamental result is that you have, generically, you have 5 three-tangent planes into a pencil. Now it depends. It depends on the cubic surface. If the cubic surface is smooth, then you have exactly 5. But in general case, you can have less planes because you have double plane and so on. So just the idea is you can compute everything. Okay, and you have an equation of order 5. 5 rows, generically they are distinct, and in the smooth case you can prove quite easily that they are distinct. So you have 5, really 5. Okay, so the important picture, as this picture is important for Pinlevé 6, is this one. From this result of these 5 lines, then you can find all the lines. And you have this picture, you start from a line here, and then you get the 5 planes. One plane is this one, and we have 4 planes like that, and so on. You look at the intersection and you prove that you have this picture. And here are the 27 lines. And now the structure is important because in the case of Pinlevé 6, you can imagine that this big triangle is a triangle at infinity. And then you look, so you have 3 lines at infinity. And you look at the line, for instance, meeting this one. And you find this pack of 8 lines. And these 2 by 2, they cut into 4 points. Okay? So 4 points, 4 points, 4 points. So you have 12 points. So I will explain these 12 points correspond to now a particular solution of Pinlevé 6. So, okay. Now I will shift to. So 27 line is for the generic case, smooth cubic surface, which will correspond to P6. But I need also singular cubic surface. And the least ignored was known at the end of 19th century. So I have picked this table in the book of Bruce Wall. So you see this is the smooth case, the non-singular case, 27 lines. Here are the number of lines. And this is the table. So no. So the first column is the generic case. The second column corresponds to generic P5. You have 80 lines at finite distance and a singularity at infinity. So when you look by degeneration, by confluence, you will have a pure singularity at infinity and generically not singularity at finite in the finite part, but some line disappears. It was the Mikado game I explained yesterday. So the degenerate P5 case is this case. Now P2, the generic P2 I just described before. You have these 12 lines. 12 lines, the 9 lines plus 3 at infinity, and 3 singularity of type A1 at infinity. When alpha is an integer, then the triangle disappears, so some lines are missing. Also, in this case, some lines are missing. And then P1. P1 is this case.
P4?
I don't know. Yes, I will answer interesting question. you have the explicit equation, so by hand you can compute the line, you can compute the singularity, you can compute infinity. So if you are interested in P4, you can find. We do not do that because in fact these exams we get by a trick that I will explain at the end of today of my lecture. The trick is to look at the linear equation. So looking at the linear equation, you guess the number of lines. Okay, so we have guessed in fact the line. We do not do that by the stupid method by hand, but it's possible.
If in the modelized space of cubic surfaces, you take some surfaces which have singularities that are not on the list, do you get a dynamical system which is not
I don't know. Excuse me. This is the point. You know, in this table you have two parts. So in the above part, they all correspond to Painlevé equations. For perhaps not generic values, but no matter. Everything appears. But for the second part of the table, you can prove that for some columns, it is impossible that it cannot correspond to Painlevé equation because you have not the good singularities. But I think they correspond to some.
Is it possible to go back to the table with the
Yes. This is the table. I think you can find.
Right. So could we go back to the list of the counting of the qubits? That one, yeah. There's 5. So there's 3 lots of Painlevé 2.
Yes, we have 3 Painlevé 2.
And there's no Painlevé 3 or 4.
Oh, we don't check. It's the same, but we don't check. Okay? Okay, perhaps I will go to the next.
There must be at least 3 Painlevé 4.
Yes.
It's generic, one up
Exactly. But we have not checked. So the point is that it's a work. It's recent. It's a work in progress. So we have not checked. We check only some case.
So Painlevé 5 generator is isomorphic to Painlevé 3, so you do have Painlevé 3.
Painlevé degenerate is isomorphic too.
Right.
So this one we have, yes. Yes, Painlevé 5 degenerate is the same than Painlevé, the generic Painlevé 3. So. Okay, so I will explain quickly the general picture. So now I recall the equation of the Frick cubic. I look at the projective in P3. So you see immediately that the plane at infinity is a tritangent plane, and the intersection with the surface is a triangle. Therefore, the cubic surface contains exactly 24 lines that I will describe these lines using representation theory. Here is a triangle at infinity. Okay, so each line at infinity is contained in 4 tritangent planes that I just described before, different from the plane at infinity. And each intersection is a triangle. And so you get a union of 2 affine lines with a common point. Okay, so now here you have the equations of the 24 lines. You see the EI is the eigenvalues for in the representation. You have the local matrices and the EI, EG, and so on. They are the eigenvalues of these matrices. So using this table of eigenvalues, that is local information and the representation, you can write the equation of the lines. Okay, so I recall very briefly what is happening for representation of a group of free group of rank 2. And the important point is that the well-known description of the case of reducibility. Reducibility corresponds to this formula. Okay. So in general, you have for each singularity, you have 2 lines, so you have 4 lines. And you can choose mixed, but you can build mixed basis to compute using an eigenvalue of one of the matrices and an eigenvalue of the other. And in general, you have 4 ways to build such mixed basis. But you have degenerate case, it could be possible that you have common lines. So geometrically, the case of reducibility, they correspond to the degeneracy of one of these mixed bases. So it's very simple, but this is the fundamental idea. Okay, so starting from that, it's reasonable to introduce a notion of partial representative reducibility for a group, a free group of rank 3. And now I will explain that there is a relation between this partial reducibility and the lines. It's the same story, in fact. And it can be extended to wild representation. I will end with that. Of course, I will define the partial reducibility. I pick two points, and I suppose that the pair is reducible. And then you have characterization of smoothness. That is, the cubic surface is smooth, is compactified is smooth. The 24 lines are pairwise distinct. You have these relations. Problems exist. We have these conditions. These conditions appear in many classical papers. Excuse me, it's not in the. So this condition appear in Jimbo papers. Jimbo parametrization works if you suppose that you have this one is not in Z. Okay, so this is the situation for each pair, each plane like that intersect into 2 lines. You have 4 lines, and they correspond to the reducibility of the pair of matrices. This is the situation and the proposition. So you have equivalent, if you have partial reducibility, then it's general, it's for all plane wave. If you have partial reducibility, you get 1 line. Perhaps they are not distinct, it's a partial information. And for P6, it's equivalent. Okay, this one I will skip. So for P6, some special solutions are well known: Riccati solution, rational solution, algebraic solution. And such cases appear for special value of the parameters. Now I am speaking essentially on for the generic case, for generic value of parameters. And for generic value of parameters, as far as I know, the only known special solutions are the 12 Kaneko solutions.
There's an algebraic solution in the interior of there's an algebraic solution in the interior of the Weil alcove.
Yes, but it's for special value of the parameter. This.
So are you saying that these exist for any generic parameter?
Yes.
Okay.
For any generic. I am interested for special solutions, which remain special for any.
Any generic
Any,
values.
yeah.
Okay, so this will be the 12.
Yes.
I see.
And so for any case, only special solutions that I know in the literature as this solution due to Kaneko. I will explain. Okay, so Kaneko search for formal solution of P6 as the fixed singularity, 0 and infinity. So he plugged, and that he plugged the solutions, and he got 4 solutions, formal rational solutions. So he got 4 solutions for each singularity. And using Briot-Bouquet theorem, they are automatically convergent. Okay, and now I can look at each Kaneko solution. You have 0. You have this rational Kaneko solution. So I can look at each solution, and I can do the same business I described for Bittman for irregular singularity. Here is a regular singularity. I can try to do the same thing. So now you have 3 eigenvalues, but you have, before I have a 0 eigenvalue, now it's a non-zero eigenvalue that I normalize 1, and it remains the symplectic eigenvalues. But now it's simpler. You are in the case of Hadamard-Perron theorem, and what happens is that you have two invariant. You have 2 invariant surface, two analytic invariant dimension 2 manifold, and they cut into a line, and this line is a Kaneko solution. It's not evident, I will explain. It's not completely evident. See, exactly, the picture is similar to P2 in some sense. And we can do the same for P5. For P5, you have 2 singularities, one regular singularity at 0, and irregular singularity at infinity. So at 0, you can try to copy the Kaneko approach. It was done by Kaneko and Oyama, and they get 3 solutions. The proof, the situation is similar that I am describing for P6. For at infinity is more difficult, and this is not completely finished. We are looking at that with Emmanuel and Martin Klimes. At infinity, you have using this picture of Shiba, you find 5 or Bruno power geometry. A student of Bruno did that for P5. You have 5 formal solutions, but they are divergent. It is also studied in some Russian papers. Okay. Okay, so now I will explain the correspondence between the 24 lines and some special solution. So, by analogy with Boutroux terminology for P2 and P1, we call them truncated, tritruncated, and bitruncated. So, of course, they are not truncated, but there is a very nice analogy. And the situation is like that, with 24 truncated, 1 parameter family of truncated solutions. You have 12 tritruncated solutions, the Kaneko solutions. So the Kaneko solutions are exactly similar to tritruncated for P2 or P1. And so this is more subtle. Perhaps we give some words. There are 96 B-truncated, what we call B-truncated solutions. What are B-truncated solutions? They appear for P2 in the work of Boutroux. For P2, you have this hexagon, the triangle, and what is I explained yesterday, a line of the hexagon cut a line of the triangle at some point. You take this point, and via Riemann-Hilbert, this point corresponds to a B truncated because you are, the picture is like that. So you have two nice asymptotic in two different sectors. What is happening is in a sector you have an asymptotic like something like that, and in the other sector you have an asymptotic like that. So you have two different asymptotic in two different sectors. Just like an example is the async MacLeod solution. Okay, and here's the same. Such a B-truncated solution, it connected to singular points, one above 0 and one above 1, for instance, things like that.
So is this just all the other intersections of the 24 lines?
Yes, other intersections.
So there's a total of 96 plus 12
Yes.
intersections, but the 12 are
Yes.
special because they
Yes,
consider 3
yes.
times it.
The 12 solutions, they correspond to, you know these 12 solutions. They correspond to this point. But then you have the other intersections. Okay, then the way to prove the thing, just the beginning. Give just the idea. You compute everything. You find in the picture where are these points. And then this is the result. Riemann-Hilbert sends the 12 Kaneko solution to these 12 central points. It's not evident. It's proven, in fact, if you look at the Kaneko paper, it's proven in Kaneko paper because he compute everything using Jimbo method. In fact, we prove 1 and 2 using another method. The two invariant planes correspond to the line, 24 lines. The proof, in fact, we prove that using the dynamic on P6. So I will finish with that. Okay, so the B-truncate correspond to intersection to different, so surface correspond to two different Kaneko points. There are sample characterization. So I will finish with a short description of the dynamic. Okay, so I return. So you have the triangle at infinity. Excuse me. You look at the vertices, QH, the three vertices of the triangle at infinity. And then you have this remark. So the exchange of two roots define an involution. Geometrically, you pick up an edge at infinity, and you take a line pivoting around this point. He cuts the surface into two other points. The correspondence in the two other points is an involution. Here you have the formula. They are quadratic transformations. They are antisymplectic. And you look at the subgroup generated by this free involution. It can be proved that it is isomorphic to a free group Z2, Z2, Z2. Okay, and now I look at the composition of these two antisymplectic involutions, 2 by 2. And then you get free symplectic transformation. And this free symplectic transformation, it can be proved easily by computation with braids. It corresponds to the modromy of P6 via Riemann-Hilbert. Modromy of P6, you turn around 0, 1, infinity. You have two free loops. On the other side, you have free braids, and the action of the braid is this. So this is the formula. This is the formula on the character variety for the dynamic of P6. Okay, and then using this dynamic, I can prove that this correspondence with Kaneko point and the line and the surface by the surface that I got abstractly by Hadamard-Perron theorem with 24 lines. That is, you look at the image of a Kaneko point. You look at what is happening at such a point, and then you look at the dynamic, and you prove that if a germ of surface is conserved by the dynamic, it is necessarily one of the two lines. Okay, yes, so now you can extend to the whole Penleve equation. For the whole Penleve equation, in some sense, the story is the same. You have a characterization of the line on the wild character variety by a property of wild reducibility of the wild representation for the linearized equation. So, as I explained before, the reducibility for P6 corresponds to the degeneracy of certain mixed base of privileged solution. So the picture is exactly the same for all the Penleve. You have to be careful the way you extend when you want to compare two solutions in order to build a mixed basis. You have to be careful by which way you choose for extend the solution. And the one-dimensional subspace of the solution space of the mixed basis are the following. For each regular singularity, there is a pair of eigenspans of the modromy, or perhaps in exceptional case a single eigenspace, so it's a line or two lines. And for each regular singularity, you choose a Stokes direction, and for this Stokes direction, you pick up the line of sublimian solution. Okay? And then you do pairings. Here you have a picture for P5. For P5, you can look, this is a regular singular point. You can do a pairing between them. This picture is like for P6. But you can do also a pairing of subdominant solution with itself turning around. And you also can do mixed things. And you get the lines, the 80 lines. And for P5 degenerate P5, you have a similar picture, and you get the 12 lines. So this, we have guessed all this picture using this trick. Okay.
Questions? Just jump